Hello and welcome to the Eccentric Moment, Auto Tech's own podcast. This is the very first episode, and today we will demystify XR for enterprises. I'm Varun, co founder and CEO at Eccentric. At Eccentric, we partner with the most iconic automotive brands to elevate their customer experience from 2D to 3D. There is so much to disrupt, and we are so near, yet so far. To begin with, let's just address the elephant in the room. What exactly is XR? And for that, I will have my co founder, Gaurav, join us. Hey, Gaurav.
Hi everyone, I'm Gaurav. I am the other co-founder and CTO at Eccentric. Varun, since you asked about XR, let me tell you, I don't think a singular definition exists for it. I think that the definition changes based on evolving technology. To understand this better, let's just take a look at a few others in this space. Right. So we've got the Chronos Group, which is managing open standards for 3D graphics on various platforms. We've got Accenture, and we've also got somebody like Unity 3D, which is actually a gaming engine which deploys XR to multiple platforms. So in this case, what we've tried to do is come up with a definition which is as relevant as possible to our viewers based on what different people in the world claim XR to be. Here it is, right? So XR is interactive experiences involving virtual twins that are ever evolving, cross-platform, scalable, and that help enterprises become more productive while improving their customer experience. So in this case, I speak about interactive a lot because what's the point of making something that your users can't experience by themselves? When we speak about scalability, there have been so many interesting ideas that have been promised as the next big thing. We've witnessed all of these very up close from the point of view of an enterprise as well as an outsider. Think of Google Glass, Oculus, HoloLens, Magic Leap. All of these had amazing demos. But as a tech enthusiast, right, like most of us clearly understand that this hype was way bigger than the actual product itself, at least for some of them. And what does all of this mean for an enterprise, right? How can they give the best experience to their customers at the best possible cost? And more importantly, how do they guard themselves against yet another hype?
Hype, I think, sounds familiar. Well, I do it for my living. But today we are not here to sell you yet another tech hype, right, Gaurav? So, if you're an enterprise, this episode will help you understand all that you need to know to help you take the first steps towards building your own foundational XR tech. If you're an entrepreneur, this episode will hopefully serve as a dash of inspiration to start building things that really matter to this ecosystem. And if you're an investor, this episode will shed the light on the potential and pitfalls of this space. With this, I take the opportunity to invite Toby, someone who has been at the front line of tech disruption in the automotive space. Toby, it's so nice to have you here. And we are so happy that today it's not just us at Eccentric who will benefit from your wisdom.
Thank you for having me.
We are happy to get someone who needs no introduction, Rajan Anandan, who knows a thing or two about enterprises, uh, having led Dell, Microsoft, and Google to new heights, to being a vital part of the startup ecosystem in India and around the world. Rajan, who is currently the managing director for Peak 15 and Surge, is with us. But as someone who has been observing this space quite closely, what are your thoughts on this space?
Thanks for having me. And Toby, very nice to meet you virtually. And Varun and Gaurav, great to join this session. Look, I completely agree about the need to create immersive product experiences. So I agree with everything that's been said. However, look, the reality is, XR space has not lived up to its promise. There are a few other technologies that have come before us that have also not yet. By the way, everything happens in the world. It's just a matter of when. Okay. So some of these things may happen in my lifetime. Some of these things may actually be after my lifetime. Fortunately, Toby, for us, when we live in India, you're probably going to experience it at some point, either this life or next life. So now let's talk about. So I guess my question, for both of you and others is, what is holding up the XR space? Let's specifically focus on XR. Right? What is holding it back? Why are we not seeing, many breakthrough use cases? I don't know, like 300 of the Fortune 500 companies using this at scale. I mean, it's still sort of niche use cases. I know you all have a bunch of OEMs that are using it. The Eccentric product, and I'm sure Toby, you've got a few examples, but it's nowhere close to sort of breakout yet, or we haven't seen it yet. So I'd love to kind of get your thoughts on what's holding it back and what needs to happen.
Toby, do you want to go first?
Yeah, happy to go first. I mean, XR can be a really powerful tool, but the why behind the tool needs to be very clear to justify the use case, right? What you currently see is that there's a lot of deployment of XR experiences, usually at significant cost and trailblazing new paths, but the why of that XR should not be XR. There has to be something beyond that. There has to be a greater value for the customer, and by extension, for the OEM to extract from this technology, from the immersiveness of the experience that you create there. And from my perspective, the XR experiences have to be integrated into the brand and into the customer journey in a way where they drive engagement with the product, they unlock experiences that previously weren't there, and they truly augment the value proposition. So there's a very strong connection of finding the why of leveraging the technology and translating that into real value, tangible value. And that has not happened to a sufficient extent due to technical limitations, immaturity of the product, or from poor implementations so far of, in principle, good ideas, but it's really, I think, a lack of maturity of the industry in that regard that is holding it back.
Toby, I do agree with that. And, at least from our worldview, every now and then we have a customer asking questions like, can you build a metaverse in 30 days? And what you ask, how do you answer that kind of a question? But having said that, we completely understand that it's a responsibility of companies like ours to educate the broader ecosystem and to really help them separate the hype from what exists out there. And that's one of the key objectives of having this podcast. So on that note, we have something exciting to show you, on not just what our thesis here is, but probably how there could be an alternate way of looking at this space, which we haven't. So for that, let me get in Gaurav. Over to you.
Can't stop smiling. I'm so excited. Right. So the eccentric that we've all known until now has always been about visualizing 3D use cases, either on websites or in dealership. But today, I'm super excited to show off the core of what we've been building so far, right? For a better understanding, let's take a look at how most of the world visualize their products in 3D. Streamed experiences today are plagued by lag, blurry outputs with a low resolution stream, and server connection loss. At times, you can't even enter the experience due to server load. All this at an extremely high OPEX for the OEM and cost to the users. We at Eccentric are trying to create an era of unrestricted democratization of tech. This enables OEMs to serve the experience to unlimited buyers on the internet and also provide a superior product experience at thousands of dealerships across the world to enable quick decision making. At Eccentric, we've built the first ever web-based graphics engine for automotive, One3D, that ensures your products look realistic without the need for streaming. On that note, we are happy to provide you with a glimpse of One3D 2024. This demo is brought to you thanks to our partnership with Stellantis, who have entrusted us to roll out these product experiences on their websites and dealerships across India and Asia Pacific region. Let's take a look at some visuals. As you can see, this runs on your devices at native resolution without any lag. And as a bonus, the engine mitigates issues of heating and high energy consumption using our optimization algorithms. What you just saw is the automotive industry's own real time 3D engine that fits right into their ecosystem. Even with a spotty connection, your experience remains uninterrupted.
Just to break this down, the engine here is, an infrastructure on which a lot of use cases and everything else can be built. And we had a foundational question to really answer when we before we started embarking on this mission, is that do we ride on the whole cloud compute hype? It was almost like 1.5 years back, with the launch of OpenAI and ChatGPT. Everyone was just rushing towards working on cloud compute and trying to see how we can do this. And it was like a highway where there's a road that leads to a gold mine where all the startups are heading. Whereas at Eccentric, we were the ones who were driving in the opposite direction, saying that, hey, why do we need to solve this problem? Because this is something that does not need cloud compute. And that is essentially where we call it the bottom of the tech stack approach that we've had. That what's the foundational thinking, first principles thinking. So Rajan, you meet your fair share of startups and you evaluate a lot of tech. So what does bottom of tech stack mean to you? And is it something that's really exciting and music to your ears?
What do you mean by the bottom of the tech stack?
So we speak about, the nuts and bolts of a tech problem because a lot of companies out there can build experiences, they can build use cases, but from a foundational tech point of view, where let's say a foundational like LLM, if we speak about any kind of an AI model, so that would become your foundational thing on which you
Yeah,
build a
so I
lot
mean,
of
look,
things.
it's super, super important, right? I think it's extremely important, and obviously, the harder the problem is, or I should say, the harder the foundational tech is to build, then it becomes even more defensible. I think with XR, I hear what you guys are saying. By the way, it's a very impressive demo. Congratulations. I hear, I think what Toby was also saying, that the tech wasn't there. It would hang and it would be slow and so on and so forth. So I think being able to solve it perfectly from a technical standpoint is very, very important. But I do think at least my view on XR is it's what Toby was talking about. It's the use cases that really create massive, like a 10x better experience that customers really value. So I think if you can deliver that 10x better experience at one tenth the cost, which may be what you guys are speaking about, I think that is very compelling. I find with a lot of foundational technology innovators, right? The big problem is the use case. What am I really solving? Like, what customers, why is this going to solve a huge problem? I mean, LLMs have been terrific because they've sort of been able to bring to life a set of use cases that consumers now can relate to, right? OpenAI sort of made AI the zeitgeist of the world because of what it was able to do with ChatGPT. So yeah, so it's very, very important. I think it's as long as it's highly defensible, it's highly differentiated. But I think that actually and Toby and all of you will have a view on how ready was the tech. Because see, if the tech is okay, but the use cases are so compelling, I've always found that the use case wins because consumers, if they really want something, they're okay with, the thing hanging for a bit, but if the use case is not very compelling, you can have the world's best tech and you're looking for a problem. So, I'm still trying to understand, like, are there really compelling use cases that enterprises are going to adopt this at scale, and is really the tech that is a bottleneck? And I'd love to kind of hear about that, maybe later from both of you, all three of you.
Why later now? Toby, if you have to really address this question, saying that once you have a scalable 3D infrastructure or a scalable 3D tech, what use case are we speaking about? What is your opinion?
Yeah, from my perspective, to go back, right, the big value is when you find something that is of value for the customer, and by extension, it becomes valuable for the OEM. And that's how XR is really going to penetrate that as well. And I already see a lot of innovation that has happened, again, really catalyzed through the modern automotive OEM around presenting the product, presenting visuals on the product page, in-vehicle displays that have become very common now. The e-commerce experience is becoming more and more immersive. And then I think one of the core value adds is really thinking about tightening the engagement between the customer and the product, and really tightening the visual with the CRM aspect, right? So following the customer's journey as they're exploring their product, letting them experiment with the product day and night, whenever they want, at any occasion, and tightening the connection also between the physical world and the virtual world. And for XR to be that unlock, I think is going to be a path into the future where there can be a lot more relevance to the technology, and where it can generate a lot more value for the consumer. And then by extension, obviously, the value is going to follow for the OEMs. So there's a lot of opportunity there. And I think for now, it's really to step by step unlock the early winners here, and then step by step identifying how can you grow into this new way of bringing together the physical world with the virtual representation.
Toby, would you say that the tech really wasn't there? I mean, at least from an enterprise standpoint, from where you sit, whether it's a Tesla or BMW, has the tech really not been there? I mean, that's, I think, what the Eccentric team is sort of making the case for, right? Is that tech hasn't been great and it's been super expensive.
Yes.
Are both of those things, you would say that those both are, that's been what's holding it back? The tech wasn't ready, as opposed to the use cases weren't clear. Like, crypto is an example, right? Where unclear, outside of the one big use case, which is speculation for crypto, we haven't found a use case, right? So it sounds like this is different, right? Where you can see the use cases from an automotive industry standpoint, but the tech really wasn't ready, as well as, at the right price point, i.e. affordable. Is that fair? It sounds like that's what you're saying.
I would definitely second that. And I think from my perspective, the big opportunity that has not been uncovered is the product discovery, and really making that interactive, and then just increasing the quality of a lead drastically, right, is a huge acquisition benefit that the technology can unlock, that just has not been accessible, and it has not been easy at a low threshold of investment. The next thing is the high margin opportunities like e-commerce, accessories, all of the add-ons that you can sell with the product that really provide the big margin opportunities can just drastically benefit from a more interactive shopping experience, and for creating a closer connection between the customer and the product. So there, and those have not been mature, and they have not been widespread, and they have not been adopted consequently. And that definitely is something that will become more of an opportunity as it's becoming more day-to-day and everyday available. And then I think there's also sort of the socialization aspect, that it just becomes way more normal, right? Now every manufacturer is starting to bring a 3D model of their car in vehicle as a display just to have that representation. And you can name the car and you can do all kinds of things to personalize it. And I think that's just something, sort of a first step in that direction, where it becomes more day-to-day availability and a very commonplace thing. And that will certainly unlock in the coming years, in my opinion, as well.
Just to add a technological view to what Toby said, Rajan, think of this tech as the glue that makes sure your 3D assets just stick to your experiences. There are companies like Unity Furious, which was a streaming service just shut down recently, that could not really achieve that. Google Stadia, not from automotive, but from a gaming world, that could not achieve this. So we are looking at this tech, that glue that helps your assets really stick to the experience layer. So Rajan, with that, one last question for you, right? We spoke about tech, we spoke about use cases, but as an enterprise, if you are scouting for foundational tech, and what would your advice be? And to a startup that is building foundational tech, where there isn't any ecosystem to really latch onto, but still there's a lot of promise, what would your advice be to both, to the enterprise as well as the startup?
I think to enterprises, look, I think enterprises know what they want to do, right? Which is they want to drive more revenue and they want to reduce cost, and they want to do that while increasing customer experience. So, technologies that can do one or more of those three things usually work. So I think, it sounds like, look, if the technology is there and the experience can be materially better. I was listening to Toby, and I'd say, look, the key question really is, I guess the way to measure ROI on this technology is super simple, right? I link it to my CRM and I say, hey, for every dollar of marketing that I'm going to spend, that I'm going to bring a user, a potential buyer to my website, because I have XR, my return on ad sales is going to be 6 versus normally it's 1.8. If you can show that, every CMO is going to buy this, right? Hey, why not? Why wouldn't I do this, right? Or CEO. So I think for an enterprise, that's what it is. I think for startups, look, it's really about, are you solving a real problem? At least I find with sort of deep tech entrepreneurs, very tech first entrepreneurs, right? Usually they come with very strong technical backgrounds, and therefore they can build very, very interesting technology. So the real question is, are you solving a real problem? And then the answer to that really happens when you get customers to pay real money for the real problem that you're solving. And I think the great thing about Eccentric is you guys have, many brands that are now actually, not only leveraging the Eccentric platform, but also paying for it. So I think that's the key question. If you get a customer to pay you a couple of $1 million a year, you probably build something useful.
I think, of course, the spends are important, but so is the engagement. The fact that these customers have
large enterprises do not continue to pay if there's no ROI, okay? And there's no ROI if there's no customers, engagement, closing the loop, measurement. That's how enterprises work. So, at the end of the day, look, enterprises care about ROI. They're not going to spend $500,000 or $1 million because it's like, by the way, they'll do it at an experimental stage, which could have been what happened with XR, right? Everybody tried it and, I don't know, spent a bunch of money and maybe it didn't work. So, but hopefully now this time it's going to be different. And I think what you guys are saying is this time it's different.
Well, yes, the vehicles that we used to drive 10 years back are so different from the ones that we drive now. But the foundation and the plans and the blueprints for these were laid 10 years back. That's the industry for all of us. And I think that's, again, something where we have taken a prudent approach, where, of course, we want to get the right revenues, we want to be profitable. And it's about this one thesis. And it's great to have...
I have a question. Does Tesla use XR in their customer? Toby, does Tesla... I've not been to the Tesla website because we can't buy one in India. Is it sort of... Do they use sort of this immersive XR type experience, Toby?
In a very rudimentary way, but not a very advanced way, right? So, it was always very innovative how Tesla's digital experience was developed and displayed. So it has been pushing the envelope, but on the virtual immersion, for example, Tesla created that first in-car display 3D model that you could customize, name, etc. But it hasn't gone much beyond that from there, right? Even though the So the Tesla app, for example, is something that is a bit more immersive, where that was the first app where you could turn the lights of your car on and off, open the doors, and show that also on the display. So that's where it started to unlock a few additional convenience features. But I also think it's still in its very infancy in that
But
regard.
they actually paid too much money for streaming and for cloud computing, and I believe so. Well, I don't know what actually happened right there. So hey, if our friends from Tesla are watching, hello. So
that also gets us back to whether the tech existed or no, right? Like, you need to use the right tech to solve the right use case. And that's what it should be about.
yeah. So imagine having a 1:1 streaming for every single Tesla car, where every single Tesla car is connected to a remote computing server. Not going to happen. There are billions of cars. So how can you really stream so much 3D content when you have so many people who are exploring and buying your cars? There's a fundamental problem there. Well, of course, that's our perspective. I'm sure a lot of people out there will be having their own perspective on this. But I think we'll speak from our worldview when it comes to this particular question. But I think that's a great question. And I believe that next time we are on the pod, Rajan, we will actually show you a demo of how it feels like to use our product on a Tesla.
There you go. I think that's a good objective to have. That's a good OKR.
Yeah. Awesome. Let's just spin it, Gaurav. Let's just spin it right there. Amazing.
All right,
Amazing.
sounds good. I'm going to run.
Thank you,
here.
Rajan. Thank you so much. All right.
Hey, great to see the three of you. Take care.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Bye.
That brings us to the end of the first episode. This was fascinating to say the least. We had lots of fun doing this. Toby, I think it's almost past midnight for you, or it is past midnight for you. Thank you so much for doing this. Really appreciate having you on this show.
Thank you for having me.
Lovely. All right. Thank you so much. All right.
Thank you both.
Thank you.